Yesterday, we were discussing the Department of Justice's response to the National School Boards Association claim that parents showing up at school board meetings in opposition to critical race theory and anti-family gender ideology, along with unscientific COVID policies, were the equivalent to domestic terrorists. Now, it's in their letter, and I think I have that letter posted at tonyperkins.com. And by the way, I briefly read from their 6-page letter the incidents that they said supported their claims of parents being domestic terrorists. Among the incidents of name calling, yes, that's really a terrorist threat, and threats to remove them from office, they cited an incident in Virginia where a man was arrested at a school board meeting. But despite efforts to suppress the facts, the real story is this man's daughter was actually sexually assaulted in the school bathroom by a male in a dress using a girl's restroom. The school denied it in the public hearing that the man was at, saying that there were no problems that they had encountered by their bathroom policy. The irate dad trying to speak was drug out by police before he could speak. So that's the story behind what was in the memo. But back to this memo. Did the Biden administration actually solicit this letter so that they could jump into something that, quite frankly, is none of their business? Well, join me now to discuss this is Gene Hamilton. He is the vice president of America First Legal Foundation. Gene, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me on, Tony.
All right. You have called upon Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General, to look into what you have laid out here is a number of facts, and I want to jump right to the heart of this because, quite frankly, it looks like there, if I can use the word collusion between the National School Boards Association and the Biden administration. Explain.
Tony, you've highlighted a very important issue that's obviously got a lot of attention in recent days and in the last week or so. Parents are rightly outraged at what they saw. When we saw this political action taken by the Attorney General of the United States, a mere days after receiving a letter from a National School Board Association asking for this very type of action to occur. Now, I can tell you from firsthand experience at the Department of Justice, working with prior attorneys general and other senior levels of government, in that type of a timeline simply does not happen ever. The organizations send letters, members of Congress send letters all the time to the Department of Justice, to other federal departments and agencies. No one ever responds, no one ever reacts within a matter of a few days and issues departmental guidance based on the contents of a request from an outside organization.
In other words, the wheels of justice move very slow, literally. And the date, just so our listeners understand what you're saying, the date of the memo or the date of the letter to the president was September the 29th. The memo from the Attorney General was October the 4th. Nothing moves that fast. They don't even process mail that fast.
That's right, Tony. You're absolutely correct. Nothing ever moves in government that quickly. Particularly, nothing moves that quickly at the highest levels of the Department of Justice and other massive cabinet agencies, unless there's something else going on. And that something else is what we are asking the Inspector General of the Department of Justice to look into. Clearly, there was some amount of coordination that was involved here. We don't know precisely where all of that coordination occurred. Our letter speaks for itself. We have some things in it, but it's just a simple fact that you don't get from a letter to the president asking for something to occur to a response in the form of a formal memorandum from the Attorney General of the United States without some kind of pre-coordination, without some kind of understanding or agreement beforehand. And that's what we're trying to get at.
So if I were to look at the Gene and look at the questions that you're asking, it appears that there was some information coming from those close to it that would suggest that the Biden administration was looking for someone to say, hey, can you help us? Can you jump in and bring the federal government into this debate? And it would suggest also that there was political motivation because the Democrats realized this is a losing issue for them. Is that a reach or is that what the evidence could suggest.
Tony, our letter speaks for itself, but I think that you hit a very important point, which is the Democrats realize that this is a very, very, very bad issue for them. And you can see it in poll and poll and poll across the country. Now, my organization is not a political organization. We're a nonpartisan 501c3, but we can clearly see what every other American can see across the country, which is that political motivations are being taken into account when they're taking official government action. And that's improper. It's especially improper at the Department of Justice. And it's especially improper when across the country, parents are exercising their First Amendment rights to petition their government, to petition their school boards, to let their voices be heard. And this memorandum is nothing more than an attempt to chill their speech improperly and unlawfully. There is no pandemic or epidemic, I should say, of violence against school boards across the country that would precipitate this kind of a memorandum coming up based on legitimate law enforcement sources and information coming from the FBI itself.
Yeah,
quite
even
frankly,
their
I
own
would
memo.
be shocked.
Even their own letter to the president falls short of building a case that there is some kind of threat to school boards and schools across the country. Gene, we're out of time. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be watching this one very, very carefully.
Thank you, Tony.